ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste, my dear friends. Continuing the explanation and discussion of the heart center by Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. I am going to give this video, second video on the heart center. This video will be in the question answer between devotees and Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. Now let us see how Bhagwan replies to the questions put by devotees. First question devotee puts, but I have heard it said by a saint that his spiritual experience is felt at the place between the eyebrows. Maharshi, as I said previously, that is the ultimate and perfect realization which transcends subject-object relation. When that is achieved, it does not matter where the spiritual experience is felt. But the question is, which is the correct view of the two? Namely, one, that the center of spiritual experience is the place between the eyebrows, and second, that it is the heart. Now, the space between the eyebrows, as per the Kundalini Yoga, it is called Ajna Chakra. Here there is a endocrine gland that you see endocrine gland they secretes hormones. These hormones are very important and they are mixed with the blood and circulate in the whole body. So every part of the body gets the hormones. So here on the Ajna Chakra, the endocrine gland is pineal gland. This is a very important, and for Kundalini chakra this is the most important, but that is a different matter. We will discuss some time in other videos while discussing Kundalini yoga. So Maharshi replies, for purposes of practice, you may concentrate between the eyebrows. It would then be bhavana or imaginative contemplation of the mind, whereas the supreme state of anubhava or realization with which you become wholly identified and in which your individuality is completely dissolved transcends the mind, then there can be no objectified center to be experienced by you as a subject distinct and separate from it. Devotee. I would like to put my question in slightly different words. Can the place between the eyebrows be said to be the seat of the self? Maharshi, you accept that the self is the ultimate source of consciousness and that it subsists equally during all the three states of the mind. But see what happens when a person in meditation is overcome by sleep. As the first symptom of sleep, his head begins to nod, which, however, cannot happen if the self were situated between the eyebrows or at any other place in the head. If during sleep the experience of the self is not felt between the eyebrows, that center cannot be called its seat without implying that the self often forsakes its own place, which is absurd. The fact is, the sadhaka may have his experience at any center or chakra on which he concentrates his mind, but for that reason, that particular place of his experience does not become ipso facto the seat of the self. There is an interesting story about Kamal, the son of Saint Kabir, which serves as an illustration to show that the head and a fortiori the place between the eyebrows cannot be considered the seat of the self. Kabir was so there is an interesting story about Kamal, the son of Saint Kabir, which serves as an illustration to show that the head and a fortiori the place between the eyebrows cannot be considered the seat of the self. Kabir was intensely devoted to Sri Rama and he never failed to feed those who sang the praise of the Lord of his devotion. On one occasion, however, it so happened that he had not the wherewithal to provide food for such a gathering of devotees. For him, however, there could be no alternative except that he must somehow make every necessary arrangement before next morning. So he and his son set out at night to secure the required provisions. The story goes that after the father and son had removed the provisions from a merchant's house through a hole they made in the wall, the son went in again just to wake up the household and tell them, as a matter of principle, that their house had been burgled. When, having roused the household, the boy tried to make good his escape through the hole and join his father on the other side. His body stuck up in the aperture. To avoid being identified by the pursuing household, because if detected, there would be no feeding at all of the devotees the next day. He called out to his father and told him to sever his head and take it away with him. That done, Kabir made good his escape with the stolen provisions and the son's head, which on reaching home was hidden away from possible detection. The next day, Kabir gave a feast to the bhaktas, quite unmindful of what had happened the previous night. If it is Rama's will, said Kabir to himself, that my son should die, may it prevail. In the evening, Kabir with the party set out as usual in procession into the town with bhajan etc. Meanwhile, the burgled householder made report to the king, producing the truncated body of Kamal, which gave them no clue. In order to secure its identification, the king had the body tied up prominently on the highway so that whoever claimed or took it away, for no dead body is forsaken without the last rites being given to it by the kith and kin, might be interrogated or arrested by the police who were posted secretly for the purpose. Kabir and his party, with the bhajans in full swing, came by the highway when, to the astonishment of all, Kamal's truncated body, which was considered dead as a doornail, began to clap its hands, marking time to the tune sung by the bhajan party. This story disproves the suggestion that the head or the place between the eyebrows is the seat of the self. It may also be noted that when in the battlefield the head of a soldier in action is severed from the body by a sudden and powerful stroke of the sword, the body continues to run or move its limbs as in a mock fight just for a while before it finally falls down dead. Devotee. But Kamal's body was dead hours before Maharshi. What you call death is really no extraordinary experience. Kamal here is the story of what had happened when he was younger still. As a boy, Kamal had a friend of equal age with whom he used to play games of marbles, etc. A general rule they observed between themselves was that if one of them owed the other a game or two, the same should be redeemed the next day. One evening they parted with a game to the credit of Kamal. Next day, in order to claim the return of the game, Kamal went to the boy's house, where he saw the boy laid on the veranda while his relatives were weeping beside him. What is the matter? Kamal asked them. He played with me last evening and also owes me a game. The relatives wept all the more, saying that the boy was dead. No, said Kamal. He is not dead but merely pretends to be so. Just to evade redeeming the game he owes me, the relatives protested, asking Kamal to see for himself that the boy was really dead, that the body was cold and stiff. But all this is a mere pretension of the boy. I know, what if the body be stiff and cold? I too can become like that. So saying, Kamal laid himself down and in the twinkling of an eye was dead. The poor relatives who were weeping till then for the death of their own boy were distressed and dismayed and now began to weep for Kamal's death also. But up rose Kamal on his back, declaring, do you see it now? I was, as you would say, dead, but I am up again, alive and kicking. This is how he wants to deceive me, but he cannot elude me like this with his pretensions. In the end, the story goes, Kamal's inherent saintliness gave life to the dead boy, and Kamal got back and game that was due to him. The moral is that the death of the body is not the extinction of the self. Its relation to the body is not limited by birth and death, and its place in the physical body is not circumscribed by one's experience felt at a particular place, as for instance between the eyebrows due to practice of dhyana made on that center. The supreme center state of self-awareness is never absent. It transcends the three states of the mind as well as life and death. Devotees. Since Sri Bhagwan says that the self may function at any of the centers or chakras, while its seat is in the heart, it is not possible that by practice of intense concentration or dhyana between the eyebrows, this center may itself become the seat of the self. Maharshi. As long as it is merely the stage of practice of concentration by fixing a place of controlling your attention, any consideration about the seat of the self would merely be a theorization. You consider yourself as the subject, the seer, and the place wherein you fix your attention becomes the object seen. This is merely bhavana. When on the contrary you see the seer himself, you merge in the self, you become one with it, that is the heart. Devotee. Then is the practice of concentration between the eyebrows advisable. Maharshi. The final result of the practice of any kind of dhyana is that the object on which the sadhaka fixes his mind ceases to exist as distinct and separate from the subject. The subject and object, become the one self, and that is the heart. The practice of concentration on the center between the eyebrows is one of the methods of sadhana, and thereby thoughts are effectively controlled for the time being. The reason is this: all thought is an extraverted activity of the mind, and thought in the first instance follows sight, physical or mental. It should, however, be noted that this sadhana of fixing one's attention between the eyebrows must be accompanied by japa, because next in importance to the physical eye is the physical ear, either for controlling or distracting the mind. Next in importance to the eye of the mind, that is mental visualization of the object, is the ear of the mind, that is mental articulation of speech, either to control and thereby strengthen the mind or to distract and thereby dissipate it. Therefore, while fixing the mind's eye on a center, as for instance between the eyebrows, you should also practice the mental articulation of nama or mantra, sacred syllable or syllables. Otherwise, you will soon lose your hold on the object of concentration. Sadhana, as described above, leads to identification of the name, word, or self, whatever you may call it, with the center selected for purposes of dhyana. Pure consciousness, the self or the heart, is the final realization. Devotee, why does not Sri Bhagwan direct us to practice concentration on some particular center of chakra? Mercy, Yoga Shastra says that the Sahasrara or the brain is the seat of the self. Purusha Shukta declared that the heart is its seat. To enable the sadhaka to steer clear of possible doubts, I tell him to take up the thread or the clue of I-ness or I-amness and follow it up its source. Because firstly, it is impossible for anybody to entertain any doubt about his I notion. Secondly, whatever be the sadhana adopted, the final goal is the realization of the source of I amness, which is the primary datum of your experience. If you therefore practice Atma Vichara, you will reach the heart, which is the self. So, this is the explanation given by Maharshi to the questions put by the devotees about heart and the location of the spiritual heart. So thank you for watching this wonderful video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe my channel. Thank you my dear friends. Namaste.